And now the 419 with Gretchen DeBacker, Matt Killam, and Kevin Mullen.
Welcome into the 419, powered by WGTE and presented by Wheatro Wealth Management. I'm Kevin Mullen.
Gretchen DeBacker.
Matt Killam.
It is Wellness Wednesday, presented by our friends at WorkSpring, and we are talking about everyone's favorite topic, burnout.
That's right.
This is the picture of burnout.
I am.
In the dictionary, this is it.
I'm still recovering from this past weekend, so I'm still like trying to balance.
A lot of people don't know you dance at night.
That's right. That's right. Most nights.
For money.
Yeah. Well, not
much.
Yeah, that was the plan originally.
I'm not doing it well.
Who's dancing for free? I don't understand what's happening.
No, so the kids had their musical this past weekend. And so it was, all last week was Tech Week and then the musical. And as soon as it ends, you go right into cleanup mode. And it's just like, and there's still like pickup, like returning rentals and all of the things that need to happen.
Sure.
And so it's just still sort of lingering on. But
how did it go at risk of putting your kids
it
on
was
the...
so good.
Okay, so
yeah,
rave reviews.
Yes, it was so good. They did a Disney musical review called Dare to Dream, where it was just like all like famous Disney songs. And it was great. Like Garrett had his first solo.
All right.
And a bunch of lines.
Garrett nervous or prepared?
No, we didn't really see it. So I don't know, like with our daughter, like we know what nervous looks like in performance mode. And she just gets real quiet and just starts crying. Yeah. And that's what nervous looks like for her.
I did that this morning.
With Garrett, we don't really know. Yeah. Because he's just like, he's so confident in everything.
Well, he's like
does.
you, so he's probably...
He's fantastic, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
My kids put on a play this weekend. It was Fight Club. And
you're not supposed to talk about it.
You've already violated.
That's right.
Come on now. Yeah. My niece was in, I saw a musical this weekend as well. My niece was in Southview's musical, Matilda. She's only a sophomore, guys, but she had a solo. She did a great job. What's that?
Matilda's in your top 5.
Top least 5.
Oh.
Yeah, hate it.
Top least
hate
5.
What was her solo?
She was the doctor in the first scene. She sang this little song about, she was so good. So good. She looks so grown up. So they did a great job.
How old does she, remind me?
Sophomore. Just learning to drive.
How old is that? 16?
16.
And Garrett is?
Garrett is 10.
Okay, sorry to put you on the spot like that.
Yeah.
I could see you panicking.
No.
That's your son.
I was actually prepared.
Are you sure it's Garrett?
I was prepared for Juliet. That's what I thought it was coming.
Sure.
So she's 12. I can do this.
Yeah.
All day.
All day long.
Miles just had a birthday, so I can't keep track of any of their ages.
I get it.
So leave me alone. All right, so
He's had a long weekend.
you know what? I'm recovering.
Yeah.
I need some self-care. I need to
Good segue,
balance, protect myself from burnout. And we're going to get some tips on how to do that. We're going to be joined by Dr. Ashley Benson, who's actually a colleague of mine at Lourdes, is the VP of Student Affairs, but also serves on the board for NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness here in Northwest Ohio. And so we'll have her kind of give us some advice. And obviously she sees this both in practice at work, but also in her volunteer capacity on the board. And then Dawn Bentley, good friend.
Friend to all, yep.
Yeah, who is training manager with WorkSpring, and also an entrepreneur and a mom. And if anybody knows about burnout, it's the mother of twins.
That's right.
Yikes.
So we'll be wheeling her in here.
That is exactly right. And then we're going to be talking with our friends from the Valentine Theater.
Yes,
right.
We're going to switch it up a little bit. Another way to avoid burnout, or maybe cure it, is the arts. That's my theory. So we're going to have Abby Glanville on to talk about all the things.
My tears. What a beautiful sentiment.
All things going on at Valentine.
All right, I love it. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we'll be joined by Dr. Ashley Benson with NAMI. We'll be right back on the 419.
Support for the 419 comes from Wheatro Wealth Management, where we understand that your financial path is personal. Advisory services are offered through Capital Investment Advisory Services, LLC. Securities offered through Capital Investment Group, Inc. Member FINRA and SIPC. More information at wheatroadvisors.com.
The 419, powered by WGTE, is made possible in part by supporters like you. Thank you.
Welcome back into the 419. It's Wellness Wednesday presented by WorkSpring. We're joined now by Dr. Ashley Benson with Lourdes University and with NAMI. So,
Yes.
Dr. Benson.
Thank you for having me. Glad to be here.
Thanks for being here.
So you've got obviously a big role at Lourdes University. We've talked a little bit about kind of what's going on. But as we talk about burnout, I feel like there's some real experience in that just with all the work that's going on.
Yes.
But you know, you work with students every day.
Yes.
And so I guess maybe the right place for us to start is, what is burnout?
Burnout can be many things for many people. It can look different for many people. Sometimes it's just being excessively tired. Sometimes it's being extremely overwhelmed and excessively stressed. Sometimes it's just needing to disconnect, right? Just because you're always available, there's so much on your mind, and you just kind of gotta drop it all and just take a break. So it looks different for each person. And it can come out in you physically, it can come out in you emotionally, it can come out in you spiritually. So you just kind of have to take some time to know you. And where you don't know you, the people around you need to know you so that they can see that it's coming.
I know we've asked this in other capacities as part of our Wellness Wednesday conversation, but and I'm going to tee up for a softball here, but can you avoid burnout?
I'd like to say yes. I think you can. I think you have to be really intentional to avoid it. In my experience, I can't speak for everyone, but in my experience, I didn't initially think that it was something that I could encounter, right? It was just like a go, 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 do type thing. And then when it happened, I was like, oh, this is what burnout feels like. So then it became an intentional thing to avoid being in a burnout situation. So I would like to say, yes, you can avoid it, but you have to be intentional about avoiding it.
Now, there is such a rub as adults, I think, thinking about burnout or experiencing this or needing a break as weakness. What do we know more now about this than we did before or prior generations?
Well, I think first and foremost, we have a term for it. We didn't have a term for it.
Yes, ma'am.
And I think, as you're probably aware, COVID probably brought the term burnout to the forefront even more than it had ever been. And then I think just over time, historically, this day and age, we talk about mental health way more than we ever have. We own it way more. We encourage counseling. We encourage all the things. And we don't, we avoid trying, or we're still working to break the stigma, but I think it's more of a common knowledge, common conversation to talk about mental health and burnout and all those various concerns, whereas back in the day, that's not something that we did. You know, families would avoid it. They would, you know, I'm a Christian, true enough, but we would just say, pray about it and walk away, or just, you're not strong enough. We would call it a weakness, not recognizing that it's a part of naturally who we are as humans, and that there takes work in order to work through the various things that we encounter. On
a personal level, if you don't mind me asking, hacks, it makes it seem like something that is inappropriate, but we do talk about life hacks. Is there something that you do or prescribe to at the risk of putting you on the spot? You mentioned not being available all the time. I was just thinking the other day that if I did not have email on my phone, Friday at 5:30, I would be done with work, right? But do you, are there things that you purposely do in your day or weekend to make sure that you are resetting or get some time for mindfulness, if you don't mind sharing?
Yes. Oh my goodness. I do a lot of different things.
Okay.
So
Gretchen just drinks.
I do.
Okay.
Yeah. It's not been working.
All right. That, I mean, hey, that works for some people.
Yeah, it's not been working for her. Yeah, no, she's a tyrant.
A good cup of coffee.
That's
helps,
right.
Right, to start the day.
Yes.
So I try to walk when I can, especially when it's warmer.
Yeah,
I
sure.
play with my dog. I have a little poodle, Louis. He would be so happy that I mentioned his name.
That's right. All right.
And so I play with him all the time. But I love to read, so I will disconnect by reading. One of the things that I did realize for myself as of late is that when I say I'm reading, I'm usually listening, and that means that then I'm still connected to my device. So I've been trying to purposefully challenge myself to physically read, sometimes just to connect with myself in a different way. I pray a lot.
Yeah, sure.
I, will make time to listen to gospel music. I'll just walk around the house and talk to God about whatever I'm going through. Sometimes I just sit in the dark.
Have you always been able to do that? One of the things that's been the most challenging for me personally is, meditation period. I really struggle with being able to disconnect in that way. But sitting sort of and being mindful, is that something that was natural to you? Or did you have to build?
Yeah.
I had to learn it.
Yes.
It's not easy. And it really depends on the setting I'm in.
You okay?
So what's interesting, one of the things that I realized that I had to do in order to allow myself to just sit silent is I lay back on the couch with my blanket. Usually my dog will lay on my lap.
It's called a nap.
It does sometimes end up in a nap.
Yes.
Sometimes it can, but not always. I will call my husband before, so let's just say it's been a tough day at work. I will call him ahead of time.
Have you had any tough days at work of late?
There might be a few things going on. I call him and I'll say, go to your mom's. I need a little extra time just to myself. So he'll do it because he understands that this is how I am.
Aww.
And then I lay back on the couch and I'll say, okay, God, you said, come unto me.
Yeah.
And I need you to hold me. I need to be in your bosom right now. And I'll just lay there and, just try to decompress and
hand it over.
Yes. Sometimes my thoughts go all over the place and I'll have to keep bringing myself back. But ultimately it just, it'll take some time and then I can just decompress and I can feel that weight lift up.
I was going to ask,
and all that.
pardon my interruption, but I'm really interested in knowing when it stops. Is that a timed thing, or you just mentioned it, so maybe that's the answer, when it's lifted you? Is there a physical sensation to it, or do you time it and say 20 minutes and I'm up and going regardless?
I think for me, it probably depends on the day and how much time I have left to do it.
I get that.
Sometimes it is, sometimes I do feel like a weight lifted. It's kind of like when you've been holding in a secret, something you need to say to somebody, and then you tell them, and then it's like, that weight is lifted.
Kevin wasn't here one morning for the show, and it was like a weight was lifted.
Well, then you know what it's like.
Do we ever? Remember that day?
It was beautiful.
It felt glorious.
It was one of my best days ever. Yeah,
Was
it?
it?
Was great.
Well, look at that.
But when I had,
I love the fact that your husband, that's a partnership there, saying you need to not be home for a little bit. That's a wonderful.
Yes.
I don't want to.
He will also tell me, because he knows that travel is one of mine. He will say it's time for you to buy a plane ticket, and I'll be like, okay, great, thanks.
What do you do if you don't have a supportive partner or family? People sometimes think that, especially moms, they always have to be ready and available. So how can you develop that for yourself in your family if you don't have it?
Great.
Yeah, nothing sexist about that at all. Not like a freeloading.
It's honest.
Yeah.
So as a mother of 3 and a grandma of 3, yes, I have a supportive husband, but we had to learn to get to that point. So I had to set boundaries. I had to, one of the things that I tell people all the time, empower my no. You have to empower your no. And sometimes it's just a matter of, I can't do that. So the mess has to be there. They might have to eat ramen today if that's what it is. Like, I can't cook a gourmet meal today. Sometimes it's reaching out to family or friends saying, can you take them to practice? Can you do this? Can you do that? So I remember, my son was a big time football player, and I'm running him around to every which location, but also trying to work, also trying to take care of me, do my community work, all that kind of stuff. And I remember working with a family in the community and saying, if you take them, I'll pick them up.
Yeah.
If you feed them, I will do this. But then just the same, when I needed to just get away, they would keep our son and make sure he was taken care of, and we would do the same for their kids. So sometimes it's just remembering who your partners can be. So it's not always the people in your household. Sometimes it's the people outside of your household.
well said.
We're talking with Dr. Ashley Benson. You're also on the board with NAMI. We've had Mariah on the program before, but if folks aren't familiar, who is NAMI?
NAMI is NAMI Greater Toledo. We work with, we provide mental health support groups, programming in the Toledo community to just empower families and individuals on receiving support through mental illness. So that could mean groups, that could mean our NAMI Walk, which we'll talk about a little. It could mean just having a conversation with someone, being connected to resources. in the community. It could mean art. It could mean a whole number of different things because support for mental health looks different for each person.
NAMI is one of the few, if not the only organization in town that's providing mental health support for those who care for individuals that are going through this. So it actually
and
provides,
for free.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes. Yes.
I think that we frequently talk about burnout or mental health at the end in a panic traumatic situation or when red flags are going up. Can you talk a little bit about maintenance, what that looks like? We are a reactionary culture. It is the immediacy of how we do everything, right? But it's not good practice to necessarily do anything when it's desperate, right?
Correct.
What does maintenance look like? I know you talked a little bit about how you take respite, but both personally, professionally, how does one live a healthier, burnout less life?
I think having an idea of what's like on your calendar, for example, what do you have coming for the week?
Great.
One of the things that a author recommended that we do that for a book that I read that I was like, oh, duh, makes sense. Learn how to delegate. So look at what you have going for the week, something that you can delegate to someone else that you don't necessarily have to do. And, you know, for instance, if you are having your kids wash the dishes, right? Have them wash the dishes and don't go behind them and rewash the dishes. So I would do that with my kids.
You just eat off dirty plates for the rest of the week.
And I've done that with my kids.
Hell
I've
yeah.
told them, however you clean them is how you're going to eat.
Right.
And so then that also then teaches them that they don't want to eat off of dirty plates.
I love that schedule.
So
look
yes,
ahead.
so we
That's
have to,
good
you know,
advice.
look ahead. Sometimes it's, you know, having a checklist. Sometimes it's putting a routine in place. But then also when you're doing a routine, you also have to grow comfortable with breaking that routine because you can't always remain in routine because stuff happens.
I think that's such good advice. Also, too, you have to be practical and be self-aware. And what I mean by that is, for those of you that listen to the show with some regularity or know me, I'm pretty severely dyslexic. And we were constantly, I had the good fortune of my parents getting me help when I was a kid. And the people were constantly giving me very complicated systems to help me be a better student with different colored highlighters. And this isn't a criticism of this, right? Or be condescending by any means, but it just wasn't practical to how I function, right? So to your point, I think that finding things that work for you, you can coach your, not your negatives, but you can coach your non-strengths only to a certain level. They're your non-strengths for a reason.
For a reason.
You will not be able to flip your non-strengths to your strengths. It doesn't work like that. You have to make it manageable, right? And you have to make yourself functional.
Correct.
Because if you think or set in your head that you're going to make these things your triumphs, you're setting yourself up for more
Failure.
burnout. That's exactly
Yep,
right. It
yep,
feels worse.
yep.
How was I going to be able to color code my work, right? Or if I was losing the highlighters, right? Or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, it just doesn't work like that. You're
It's like
just-
setting a resolution and lying to yourself every year. I'm gonna lose weight, and
That's
then
right.
by week 2, you're like, all right,
This is terrible.
you know. So yeah, you have to. It has to be manageable. So you have to know that
like
it's
that.
different for every person. Like, and it's different for each situation that you may encounter. So like, I'm a color-coded person when I have. Like when I'm in school, I'm color-coded by subject area, but that's because when I'm running late,
Because
it's
you're an
easier for me to
alien.
say, I can
pick the
grab,
thing. Yeah.
grab the thing
Yeah.
that I need to grab as I'm going to class.
Yeah.
But when I'm getting ready to go, like to do, I don't know, sorority stuff, that's not necessarily going to be
right.
what I need. Like I need to have a list to know what it is I need to take with me, what I need to do. Every instance is going to be different.
So just a little bit of advice for the group. I leave everything that I own in a pile, and that's where I know it's probably going to be in there.
Somewhere in that pile.
That works. An organized mess, right?
Yeah.
I have an organized mess. I
Yeah.
can tell people like go to
Yeah.
this pile and go
It's
like
under the
halfway
fifth
down. It's right
envelope.
there,
Right,
and they're
right.
like, "How did you know that?" Because it's organized.
Yeah.
To you, it's not. To me, it is.
That's right.
What works?
So NAMI Walk
Sorry.
is coming up in May.
Yes, May 16th.
Awesome.
Yes.
What is the NAMI Walk and why should people care about it?
Oh my goodness. So NAMI Walk, really exciting opportunity. It's a fundraiser for NAMI Greater Toledo. All funds raised stay in Toledo. It stays for our local community. It helps us to keep our work at no cost, our support that we provide. And so it's going to be held at the Toledo Metro Park. Sorry, Brain Park.
It's okay. No offense. I hope your stupid walk is fine.
Middle grounds?
Middle grounds.
Yeah.
And we are really just using this opportunity to, one, connect folks to resources, but then also a walk in support of mental health. First and foremost, we know that one of the ways of helping people navigate mental health is to get your body moving, get yourself moving. So this is the opportunity to get us moving, and we move together as a community, but then also an opportunity to raise money for a great cause.
Absolutely.
That will allow us to provide even more support in our community.
May 16th, what time?
Starts at 9 a.m. The walk is at 10.
What time? Where can people get more information?
You can go on our website for NAMI, or you could also see anyone who works for NAMI. We've already mentioned Mariah, who is a rock star, and the executive director of NAMI Greater Toledo, but you could also see any board member. Social media, it's all over social media. See Facebook, there is a NAMI Walk Toledo Facebook page and group that can give you all the information. We're still accepting walkers, we're still accepting volunteers, we're still accepting sponsors. You can sign up for free. You can reach out to your community and ask them to donate. I'm walking, my sorority's walking.
Right.
You can put together a team. We're encouraging companies to come out and bring a team. So yes, we're doing all the things.
NAMI walks your way, May 16th at Middle Grounds Metro Park. You can find more information at NAMI's website, namitoledo.org. It is a national walk, but it's happening here in Toledo with all the support.
Really important for us to
staying here in
support.
Toledo as well.
Kids can come, bring your pet.
Your pet too.
Yes.
Dr. Ashley Benson, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll be joined by Dawn. I was like, where are we going next? Dawn Bentley. Talk about burnout. Dawn Bentley is going to join us from WorkSpring. We'll be right back on the 419.
To me, community means connecting to others.
I'm Donnie Miller, and welcome to The Point.
I love CBS Kids!
We're a community committed to education. Discover new ideas, dive into exciting subjects, and engage with the world around you.
I would send them personally a t-shirt. Crime doesn't pay in the old West End, pass it on. That's how we cleaned up the neighborhood.
Vision loss for people is not the end. It's a story, it's the next chapter.
WGTE Public Media invites you to Get Out and Play Day.
Monday through Friday, it's the 419 powered by WGTE. With Matt Killam, Gretchen DeBacker, I'm Kevin Mullen. What can people expect on the show?
It's going to be an hour, a reminder of why this is a great place to live, work, and play.
WGTE, where you come to watch, listen, and learn.
Welcome back into the 419. It's Wellness Wednesday presented by WorkSpring. We're joined now by our friend Dawn Bentley, who's the training manager at WorkSpring. And this is breaking news to me because I feel like we talk about this all the time.
This would be a whole show where we just break news to Kevin.
About people that I genuinely care about and have seen and talked to on a regular basis. We're in Rotary together, and I
oh my God, you are
no idea that you were at WorkSpring.
Your name was Dawn.
It's a pretty new development.
Okay.
It was just...
It's truly breaking.
It is pretty breaking. Yeah, it just started after the holidays.
Which holiday?
Arbor Day.
Right before Valentine's Day, right? The most important.
Okay.
The big holiday.
All right.
Everyone pays attention to you.
I'm like, if you're going to tell me
I've never celebrated a Valentine's Day. Thank you, Dawn, for driving that home.
It was right after the 4th of July.
Right after 4th of July.
2020.
In 2020.
So February timeframe, talk to me about how your relationship with WorkSpring and how you got there.
Yes. So Megan and I, actually, it was so funny. She and I met professionally within 24 hours of meeting personally because her son and my daughter are in school together.
Oh.
So we were volunteering, I think, for like book fair.
That's where people get together, book fair.
Book fair, right?
You're still
Brings everyone
encouraging
together.
kids to read?
We are.
Interesting.
Yes, but not Matilda.
That's
Okay,
right.
not
Yes,
Matilda.
thank you. Yeah, it's also a good place for a good burning.
So she had brought me on to WorkSpring as a consultant to work with them just on some of their trainings, and it was going in a really great direction. We shared a lot of the same ideas and values as far as where to take their training program, and so they asked me to come on. Right now I'm part-time because I'm still doing the care thing as well. And so I am revamping their training program and bringing updated content that's more relevant to today's work culture. As we know, it has evolved a lot over the last 6 years. So
I don't want to blow by that. Dr. Benson just hinted on some of that and gave us some really nice information, but can you elaborate a little bit about the last 6 years in terms of training? How's it changed?
Yeah, well, one, COVID obviously was a very difficult time. Where I stand though, what it brought to the forefront is accessibility for people with disabilities. We learned that you can do a lot more things virtually or hybrid. Working from home became an option and it was more realistic for people. People who are dealing with chronic illness, for example, if they're having a bad day with their illness, they can still stay home and, potentially get some work done. And so we've sort of evolved in that way. Now WorkSpring is actually offering virtual training, which is really exciting, especially because we have clients across the state of Ohio.
Sure
and so now we're able to, provide really quality training to those members without them having to travel 4 hours to come to a training or us have to have someone travel, those 4 hours. Now we can provide it at their fingertips, which is exciting.
The risk of oversimplifying what you've just articulated, is there an aha moment that you've experienced, like, oh, people are getting this or things have sort of changed? I mean, this is always going to be a struggle, right? Because from the workplace, people want people to be efficient and execute, and there's a profit and loss statement inevitably, regardless of whatever widget you make or agency you work for. But did you personally feel like, okay, we're starting to turn course here. People are starting to listen. People are starting to take this more seriously. Is there an individual moment, a person specific, obviously, but when you saw a change is happening?
Yes and no. I mean,
Sure.
I think some of it is that people have had a lot of companies and organizations have had their own aha moments of actually, there are studies out there now in research, right, over the last 6 years that show that people can be just as productive if they have a hybrid work schedule or they're able to work from home certain days of the week. You avoid some of the water cooler talk, for example, where someone's constantly coming in and out of your office and next thing you know, you're like, I never got to that report that was due. But there's also something to be said for having that FaceTime, right? And there's value in that and connectedness. And so I think each organization has to kind of look at what works for us and what are we buying into as far as our culture, and then make those decisions based on that. There's some fields and some industries where working from home just isn't an option,
That's
right? Or doing something virtually isn't an option. And so I think it needs to be more specific to each organization and not really like a cookie cutter approach.
But part of training at work, I mean, you get it put on your schedule that you have to go to a training and you're usually like, oh, great. Most of the time it's usually about something maybe you're being required to do, or it's not something you necessarily wanted to participate in. What does WorkSpring do differently, or how is the ability to do virtual and making it convenient for people affecting the participation in the training?
Just a reminder that the only person of the three of us that isn't self-employed is me. So you're dealing with probably two real damaged people here.
Or maybe three, apparently.
She's self-employed
well, you're
too.
a guest. We always are welcome to guests. So fix these two.
When Gretchen says that her boss is forcing her to go to a training,
yeah,
she's talking about her mirror.
Yeah, she's disassociating.
Yeah, that's right.
But I understand what you're saying, right?
First time for everything.
So I've actually talked about that even in training that I've done with care, and I'm applying those same principles to WorkSpring. We've all been through the training that you literally have it playing in the background, right? Like concussion protocol training, where it's playing in the background and you're working on whatever is due that day while it's and you're like, I'll get to the quiz and I'll be able to fudge my way through it, right? And that is our goal is to make training engaging and people walk away feeling like, oh my gosh, I took something from this. I feel like I learned something from it, but also I was engaged in the process of getting there, right? And so that's really what we're trying to apply to these trainings, even in the virtual setting, and also paying attention to time. 2 hours on a virtual setting is a little bit too long, right? I mean, you start to lose the audience, they get bored. An hour feels a little bit too short, where it's like, oh my gosh, how do I squeeze this in?
That's not how I feel about this show. An hour is feels like the Oregon Trail.
Well, that's a different story. But,
by Raoul Dahl.
We're talking with Don Bentley with WorkSpring. I mean, as you talk about the concussion protocol and the length of trainings and all of that, I just think it's, every year as a coach for the CYO, I have to take the same online courses to prepare for this, but I would say 90% of them
are about doping.
I know all of the answers, right? I've done this before. I could take the test and pass it, and it's so frustrating that I've got to sit through hours of this every week. Is there any shift toward more competency-based, like, hey, if you can pass this test, just pass the test, right? I don't care how long the training is. Do you know the information? Let's move on. Like, I'd rather it be actually
meaningful.
Like, yes,
right? You want people to walk away feeling like, well, that was such a waste of my time. I could have been doing X, Y, or Z instead of sitting through this training. And that's really a goal of ours, is to make it more meaningful, more relevant, right? So a lot of the trainings that we've had have existed for quite some time, and sure, like they've been updated here and there, but really looking at how do we make this more relevant to today's workplace culture, right? And we've had so many shifts over the last 6 to 8 years, a lot of it because of COVID, and then coming out of COVID now, you have people who are kind of all over the map in how they view workplace culture, how they view, work-life balance, which I always say is the unicorn that all of us are constantly chasing. I don't know that it really exists, but yeah. And so trying to come up with training where people feel good about walking away from it, they don't feel like they just wasted 2 hours of their day, like people do in a lot of trainings.
You've mentioned a couple of times CARE. You and I, our first interactions actually probably came through my brothers, but really through your work in the disability space. And now you've, a couple of years ago, launched your own consulting company in around that space called CARE. First of all, tell us how it's spelled, because it's unique.
Yes.
And then what exactly does it mean, and what is it?
Yeah. So CARE is CAIRE, and it's Community Access, Inclusion, Representation, and Equity. And what I do is I provide accessibility audits to community organizations who are interested in becoming more accessible. I'm a certified ADA coordinator, so I'll look at the physical space, but then being a special education teacher by trade, I also look at the programs and services and provide really detailed feedback on how to make those more accommodating and more accessible. And then I also do training, which I'm really excited to share is going to be offered through WorkSpring.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so the Disability Download, as you know, is one of my biggest trainings, where it's really like a Disability 101, going through best practices for interacting with people with disabilities, what are the laws, and just a brief overview of those laws, as well as implications. What is your role as a community member when it comes to the disability community? And then I also do a universal access training. Universal access to what? It depends on who I'm training. Sure. So I did one for Anthony Wayne's administrators in the fall, where we looked at universal access in education. But it could apply anywhere.
It's just what Anthony Wayne would have wanted.
When you're talking to organizations and they do the disability download, or they're just doing sort of baseline assessment, what's a thing that always surprises them that they weren't doing that they should have been? Or what's usually the first thing that they are trying to correct for?
Oh gosh, usually there's a lot and different, right? Sometimes language, a lot of people are still using outdated language.
Oh, I'm sure.
Like, for example, rather than saying handicap parking or handicap bathroom, we should use the word accessible. So that's a good example where people are like, oh my gosh, I've been using the wrong language. And I always say, it's okay, right? We're all human. It's just once we know better, are we actively working to do better? And that's all that we ask.
On a personal level, though, like most people who are exceptional in what they do, they've had some life experience to translate into this. Do you mind giving us a little background into your life that makes you particularly good at this and sort of dialed into the needs of the community?
Yeah, absolutely. So I had an older brother who had cerebral palsy, who passed away in 2005. And then I myself have ADHD, and then our twins were born.
Town.
Yeah. I know, shocking, right, Matt? You're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that about you.
Wait, what were you talking about?
I learned it within the first 5 minutes. And then our twins actually were born with hemophilia. And they're one of less than 3 sets of twins in the world that have different levels of hemophilia, because it typically runs genetically. And one of them is severe and one of them is moderate. And so they both have ports, and we give them weekly infusions through the ports factor to kind of bring their levels up so they don't bruise or spontaneously bleed. But yeah, so I've kind of had life experience from, living with a brother with physical disabilities to myself with non-visible to now having children with medical disabilities.
Absolutely.
So that, and then being a teacher has really helped with curriculum development, training development. So I've kind of married all of those together.
Absolutely. And a lot of people, that's a lot to deal with, just to keep your own house in order, both literally and metaphorically, and not a lot of people take the next step to make sure they're educating and helping others. So I congratulate you. In full candor, we're friends. I'm sorry, Gretchen has an immediate question.
I thought you were winding down.
Yeah, I am.
He's never winding
with
down,
our friendship.
Gretchen.
What is the best way for people to advocate for themselves at work or at their child's school, or to if they have a disability, seen or unseen, visible or invisible? How can they communicate to a person that they need something?
Yeah, well, of course, as you know, there's requesting a reasonable accommodation. That's always an option. I also, though, encourage employers, workplaces, educational environments to consider taking an approach of universal access, which means you're providing accommodations to people regardless of whether or not they disclose that they have a disability.
Right.
And it's truly best practice, right? Like none of us, if all four of us were given the same task and they wanted us to go from point A to point Z, we would probably arrive there a little bit differently, but it doesn't mean that the way that we did it was wrong. It's just that we probably learn, think, operate a little bit differently. And so that's kind of the goal of universal access, is that you're meeting people where they're at. But really, yeah, just requesting and communicating that, I think, is the first step. And then also advocating for maybe it's the workplace and they need more training. Maybe it's the school environment and they need more literature available, like children's books available to the kids about children with disabilities, and they can learn, through that modality.
I've got just a quick question, not to put you on the spot here, and please correct my vernacular if I'm in error here. What percentage of the population has challenges?
So 1 in 4 individuals lives with a diagnosed disability, and that's just diagnosed, right? So that's pretty staggering when you think about it. I mean, looking at us, that's one of us, right? What's fascinating, though, is I love statistics, so you're not putting me on the spot. I'm like a numbers geek. 80% of individuals with non-visible disabilities in the workplace have not disclosed it to their employer or their colleagues for fear of being stigmatized and stereotyped.
Totally. Interesting.
Including mental health disabilities.
Shifting gears just a little bit to the topic of the day, and burnout. Obviously, you have a lot on your plate. You're everything
Gretchen,
we've already talked about.
Is this question going to get in under the...
What's your strategy? What's your burnout strategy? How do you know that you're in the burnout range, and what do you do to help stop it?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question. As you know, I'm in my 40s because we talked about my glasses.
Yeah.
And them being cool for my age group is what I was
for your age group.
Yeah, I'm surprised it's not a monocle.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Seriously. But honestly, in my 40s, I feel like I finally embraced boundary setting. And I know that it was spoken about earlier, but it's so critically important.
Yeah.
Being okay with
Gretchen was in her 40s, it was a Louisiana Purchase.
It's right. But it's being okay with saying no, or like, I cannot take that on right now. Okay, so it's so funny that we're talking about this because I literally was talking with a friend about this yesterday. We all remember growing up, and if you went on vacation or you were out of town, your parents had no idea someone was trying to get a hold of them from work, unless if when you got home, they checked the answering machine and suddenly it was like, oh, I should probably check into that 8 days later or 4 days later. They truly could unplug. And now it's like a blessing and a curse that we have communication at our fingertips, right? And
never truly away.
It's so hard to turn it off and to set those boundaries. And so I think it's getting comfortable, especially in the workplace, with saying, I'm gonna shut this off or shut this down for the night. Or, hey, listen, I don't mind if you need to like get this off of your own brain for the weekend, but then you need to send it to my email.
Right.
I don't want it via text message or phone call.
Don't you find that the younger people coming up are doing that better than we are?
Yeah. Yes, and actually the younger people coming up, like they don't even, some of them are like anti-cell phone, anti-social media, which is like fantastic, right? Because our generation kind of got stuck in that cyclical pattern with those things. Yeah.
Do you guys have any upcoming trainings that will help folks manage this?
We do have quite a few coming up. We have one coming up this week that is agility and leadership and leading through change, which, as you know, the workplace is constantly changing, especially right now with technology and keeping up with how quickly that's improving, AI, right? So we have one coming up this week on that topic. We also have a mental health training that we're going to be offering again in the fall that is like a leader's playbook. It's really, rather than doing a deep dive, it's going through what are some just really day-to-day practical strategies you can employ not only for yourself but for your employees? Because it's having self-awareness but also having that EQ and that awareness of others around you.
Dawn Bentley, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Dawn.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll be joined by Abby Glanville from Valentine Theater about an upcoming performance they've got going on. We'll be right back on the 419.
Support for the 419 comes from Witro Wealth Management, where we understand that your financial path is personal. Advisory services are offered through Capital Investment Advisory Services, LLC. Securities offered through Capital Investment Group, Inc. Member FINRA and SIPC. More information at witroadvisors.com.
Destination Toledo. Whether you're a local or a visitor, Destination Toledo invites you to explore the region and be a tourist in Toledo. Find events, dining, and things to do at visittoledo.org.
WorkSpring. HR issues and employee well-being go hand in hand. WorkSpring supports employers through compliance, training, and wellness because healthy workplaces don't happen by accidents. Learn more at workspring.org.
Toledo Refining Company, a subsidiary of PDF Energy. Toledo Refining Company is a supplier of fuels that keep our region moving. Located in Oregon, Ohio, the refinery processes crude oil into gasoline, diesel, jet fuel, and other petroleum products.
And TARTA, celebrating its 55th year of connecting Northwest Ohioans to their community. More information at tarta.com.
Welcome back into the 419. We've got we always talk about some really cool things that are happening in and around the region. The Valentine Theater is an absolute 100% gem in Northwest Ohio. We're joined now by Abby Glanville with the Valentine Theater. Abby, thank you for being here.
Thanks for coming
in. Thanks for having me.
What is your role with Valentine Theater?
I am the executive director.
Security. That's right. 90 pounds of fury. That's right.
And how long have you been with the Valentine?
I've been there since September of 23.
Okay.
So 3 seasons.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about your background. How did you land in this position?
Oh, man. My path has been all over the place.
You'll find a safe place here for that.
Great. So I grew up dancing, so I've always been involved in the performing arts. And I went to undergrad at the University of Iowa. I grew up in Iowa.
Where in Iowa?
Ames.
Yeah,
Iowa.
all right.
Majored in art history. Mm-hmm. And I was very interested in architectural history through that, and then ended up doing a graduate program in historic preservation out in Oregon, at the University of Oregon. And my first job out of grad school was in cultural resource management. And then my partner at the time, Matt, now my husband, we moved to Idaho for a job for him. And I ended up getting a position as an executive director of a performing arts organization and dance academy out there.
Wow, cool.
So I ran that for 4 years, and then we relocated here, and I was working at the University of Toledo as an academic advisor. Excuse me. And then I had kind of formed a friendship with Jory Jex, who was my predecessor at the Valentine, and when she retired, she let me know, and I ended up applying for that job.
The great Jory Jex, longtime executive director there at the Valentine.
We talk when we're talking to other folks from anchor institutions. I think I love to kind of remind the region sort of where they sit nationally, right? We talk about the metro parks, we talk about the art museum and the zoo. I'm curious. I mean, you interact with theaters all over the country and executive directors, I imagine. Where does the Valentine Theater sit in terms of the actual physical space, the asset that it is to Northwest Ohio?
Yeah, so we're sort of a mid-sized theater, I would say. We have a capacity of 900 seats. So a lot of the roadhouses, like what I would consider our space to be, are much larger. So it is a challenge in terms of recruiting those large touring productions to come to Toledo in our venue for a single night, whereas they'll go to a place like the Stranahan and be there for, a multi-day run. But we're unique in that we are, the quickly, unfortunately, dwindling number of historic theaters that are around the country. We're very lucky that we are, we survived through COVID for one. but are thriving too in a community the size of Toledo. So.
You mentioned the Roadhouse. What is your favorite Roadhouse? The Patrick Swayze original or the one with Jake Gyllenhaal? I'm sorry to put you on the spot.
Or the Texas one.
I don't acknowledge that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Definitely the Patrick Swayze one.
100%.
Obviously.
Right? Real art.
Yes.
Yeah. R.I.P.
Yeah.
So what is the, I remember years ago, it has to be 30, at least 30 years ago, the theater was completely renovated. It was this huge community project. I remember we went to the big
Grand
reopening, and it was such a cool spot right there in downtown Toledo. Do you find that you still have the same level of commitment? Are people still loving coming downtown to shows?
Oh my gosh.
Hell yes.
Yes. Yeah. It's a very beloved place.
It sure is.
But what's interesting too is the number of people that do come in that have never been before. In fact, there was a day last summer where I was out in our lobby talking to our box office manager, and somebody came up to the door and they were looking
What's going on in here?
Yeah, and I opened. I was like, come on in, and it was this couple, and they said, you know, we've lived downtown our whole lives and we've never been here. So, you know, that's a big part of the work that we're trying to do is really make sure that everybody knows our doors are open to them.
Yeah. What's been the most unique thing that you've done or brought in to the Valentine in the 3 years that you've been at the helm?
And that's most unique, not just regular unique.
Yeah. So this year, this current season has been really exciting because we're really focusing on building community partnerships with other institutions, as you guys were mentioning. And in the fall, we partnered with the National Museum of the Great Lakes for the 50th anniversary of the sinking of the Edmund Fitzgerald, and we brought in a woman named Meredith Moon, who is Gordon Lightfoot's youngest daughter. And it was just a really cool project that I think got a lot of new people in the door, and it was an opportunity to really get a conversation going about something that was a really important event to Toledo.
Absolutely.
So many of the men on the ship were from Toledo. So
You have a couple of cool events coming up yet for the remainder of the season. One this weekend is called Flamenco Vivo. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so Flamenco Vivo is actually here on Tuesday. They are, the performance is at 7:30 p.m. It's a New York City-based dance and music company. This is actually a company that I booked when I worked out west, and they were phenomenal. It was a sellout performance. But anyway, they're doing a public performance at the Valentine on Tuesday evening, and then on Wednesday they will do 2 school shows for a series that we have called Valentine School Days. And so students are bussed into the theater. They do a performance at 10 a.m. and another at 12:15, and then we're actually taking the company down to the Sofia Quintero Arts and Cultural Center to do a master class with students from Escuela Smart, Marshall, and Queen of Apostles.
What a great combination of events. That's so cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So the kids will get to interact with them and learn from them and talk to them and just hear about what it's like being a touring artist. And
but to your earlier point, is available and is open as the doors are for an institution, particularly Valentine. Sometimes you still have to meet people where they are and bring the art to people. So kudos to your leadership.
Do you use castanets in your daily life?
I need to do more of that.
To get Matt to snap to it.
He probably has some somewhere.
Probably. Yeah.
What was you were a dancer? What was your style?
Oh gosh.
Training for the Olympics for breakdancing.
Yes. Yeah. Working on it still.
Yeah, sure.
Ballet was my first love, but I've taught and tried all different kinds of things. So I taught dance for many years, and I still do teach dance at the University of Toledo.
If you had to teach Matt a style of dance, what's the style you think he'd be most successful at?
Suicide. But I'll let you off.
Jazz.
Yeah,
jazz,
thank
probably.
you. That's right. Totally.
Improvisational.
Yeah, Miles Davis right now is turning over in his exceptionally cool grave. Abby, we asked a little bit about your background, but if you don't mind revisiting that just for a second. Your folks were in the arts, extremely supportive. Your dad always wanted you to be a doctor. Talk to me about a little bit of the first little Abby.
Yeah, no, they...
Not the giant person we see before us today.
Both of my parents worked at Iowa State University my entire life. My dad was a professor in engineering, and my mom worked in PR. And they were always supportive of me being involved in the arts, but they, I think, had some hesitation when I
Sure.
you know, I thought I wanted to be a dance major when I, before I went to college. I ended up not doing that, but they've, you know, they understand that anybody who's pursuing a career in the arts has to, I think, really stay after it and really be persistent. And the fact that I was able to find a career that kind of merges both preservation and the arts is unique.
Yeah.
I certainly didn't see that
Sure.
coming.
Yeah.
But it just sort of worked out. So
why do you think it's important for people? We've been talking earlier in the show about burnout and stress. Why do you think it's important, if you do, for people to incorporate the arts in their lives, either practicing it, studying it, going to see it,
immersing yourself in it? Yeah, great question.
Yeah, for one, connection. It builds connection. You know, we talk about this epidemic of loneliness that's going on, particularly in the post-COVID world. So it gets people together, and it kind of brings about this, I don't know, collective effervescence
well said.
in the room. And then I think there is no better way to learn empathy than participating in the arts. And I think, you know, my husband Matt and I talk about this a lot, about how, you know, empathy is more akin to rocket science really than anything else, because it requires this capacity to wonder and to stay curious. And what better tool for navigating the world both productively and with care than using empathy. So I think
that's so well said.
That's exceptionally well said.
Thank you.
We're talking with
Let's
Abby
derail
Glanville.
that well-phrased, that well-articulated thought with our dumb show. An awkward transition into our madness.
What are some upcoming performances that people can get excited about, and where do they find more information?
Thank you. So you can visit our beautiful brand new website.
It is beautiful, easily navigable. I love
yes,
it.
for more information. But so Flamenco Vivo Tuesday. On Friday of this week, we're showing The Shawshank Redemption for free. It's part of the Ohio Goes to the Movies project.
Okay.
So you do need to have a ticket, so you can get that on our website or come. The door is always open an hour before the show, but that is free. And then at the end of May, we have a show called 100 Years of Broadway, which is a concert celebrating all of the classic
That's amazing.
music.
I would
Cool.
love that.
I would love both those things.
Favorite Broadway show?
Favorite Broadway show?
Matilda? Gretchen's.
Gosh. Oh, man.
Cats. How
I
much?
do love Cats.
Yeah, who doesn't? Especially with the Idris Elba one. What a smoke show. I've seen that 1,000 times.
No, I'm talking about like 1989.
Yeah, the original Cats.
I only see it with Idris Elba. Actually, all performances.
All right, it's now time for Gretchen's Wacky Quiz. I'm going to ask you 4 rapid-fire questions. Gretchen's going to have you describe Toledo in exactly 1 word, and then you and Matt are going to list your 9 favorite things in Toledo.
Okay.
Question number 1, here we go. What made-up word would you love to add to the dictionary?
Oh my God.
That's a hard one.
That is a hard one.
Skip.
Schmook.
Yes. Great answer, Abby.
I love it.
We're off to a good start.
Yeah. Have you ever made a homemade gift for someone?
Oh yeah.
Did they like it?
Yeah.
Sure they did.
Of course they did.
Name one friend who's most likely to escape a deserted island alive.
Oh, Matt.
100%.
Which
Or
Matt?
decide to stay there.
Her husband, Matt.
He may, yeah.
All right, and then what would you do if you had 15 minutes of fame?
Man. I have no idea.
Or what would have earned you the 15 minutes of fame?
Anything you wanted.
Yeah.
That's a tough one.
That is a hard one.
This was a
this was a hard card.
This is a tough card. I'm gonna throw that one
Let's
away.
throw that one away.
Yeah.
What is the one word you would use to describe the city of Toledo?
Unique.
All right. We're going to do 9 of your favorite things together. Are you ready?
Okay.
Okay. Starting with number 1.
Walbridge Park.
Yes, not one of ours, but it's a beautiful
know.
park. It is a great park.
The food.
Food.
Good food
What's
here.
your favorite place?
I love
Pick
El
2.
Vaquero.
El Vaquero, yes.
Yes.
What's your second one?
No one said that.
Pizza Cat.
Yeah, all right. Okay, you're halfway home. Keep going. What's another favorite thing about the or region?
The zoo. I love the zoo.
All right.
The river.
Yes. Thank you. I'm going to give you 2 for the river. You got 2 left.
All of the murals downtown.
Yes.
Do you have a favorite mural?
I don't.
Okay, all the murals.
I think they're all great.
You got one left. Close strong.
I love there's a fountain in my neighborhood. We live in the Harvard Terrace neighborhood. It's a really cool.
Yes, it is.
The rain clouds.
Oh yeah, the rain clouds. Yeah,
Right by Walbridge Park, a beautiful place.
All right, Abby Glanville with Valentine Theater. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
When we come back, we will wrap up this Wednesday edition of the 419. We'll be right back.
You laughed with us. You learned with us.
Hi, neighbor.
We made sure your childhood was special. Memories that could only be provided by PBS. For generations, we've given you programs that made a difference. Programs that entertain, inform, and inspired. And today is no different. This is WGTE Public Media in Toledo. It's where you belong.
Support for the 419 comes from Witro Wealth Management, where we understand that your financial path is personal. Advisory services are offered through Capital Investment Advisory Services, LLC. Securities offered through Capital Investment Group, Inc. Member FINRA and SIPC. More information at witroadvisors.com.
The 419, powered by WGTE, is made possible in part by supporters like you. Thank you.
Welcome back into the 419. Wrapping up a Wellness Wednesday edition of the 419. I never know what's happening to my right.
Matt is usually making some ridiculous face at me.
And you're...
And it's not just his face.
Yeah.
It's not.
It's just, I mean, just look at it.
Yeah.
That's just his face.
Yeah.
Way to drop off the wellness field of women.
Yeah. No.
I really gave up on that. Well, the topic wasn't kindness. It was burnout.
No,
That's
right.
right.
And part
And
of
I'm
what
burnt out
avoids...
looking at your face.
Gretchen, sponsored by UPS.
What can Brown do for you?
That's right.
I was like, wait, what? I didn't get it. Now I do.
So Abby was fantastic. I never met her before.
Oh my gosh.
But
Me neither.
I can't imagine the kind of the stress and challenge of like stepping into an organization that has been around for so long, is so beloved, but you're trying to innovate, right? You're trying to do new things and bring in new things, and
had a long-time leader there, right? It's difficult to fill big shoes. I've been able to meet Abby in passing through the Toledo Cultural Leaders, which is a group of really hardworking, fine people in our region. Abby is an incredible win for our area. And as we all know, small institutions, you're not just on the high level of things, which is difficult and exhausting, but you're also on the day-to-day more so than people would know. She's great.
And of course, thanks to our guests from WorkSpring. Of course, WorkSpring always helping us bring in and focus on wellness here every Wednesday on the 419. Dr. Ashley Benson from Lord's University and on the board with NAMI Greater Toledo, and then Dawn Bentley with CARE, and then also the training manager at WorkSpring, tackling the topic of burnout, which is always relevant.
Absolutely. It's been thematic. I know we've intermittently had that same subject matter, but it's interesting and important to get different people talking about it from different places. They give you a high-level clinical approach to it, but they also talk a little bit how they deal with it in their personal lives. And that's always helpful to me because you can do a lot of reading and be talked at, but I set my phone down at 5 p.m. every day until 5:15, or I take a sort of spiritual nap, my words, not the doctor's, but how people are actually performing this that are professionals or experts in it is helpful.
If you missed any part of the show, 7 a.m. on YouTube, 3 p.m. on FM 91, or 6 p.m. on WGTE Connects, channel 30.4. Huge thanks to our guests, Dr. Ashley Benson, Dawn Bentley, and Abby Glanville with the Valentine Theater for joining us here on a Wellness Wednesday. Thanks to you for being a part of the program as well. We'll be back tomorrow to continue. And we'll take a look at our Toledo.com community calendar driven by TARDA. We'll be...
That's right.
Let's do it tomorrow.
We'll do it
What
tomorrow.
do you think?
That's right.
All right. It's
Unless
the
wishes come
419, powered by WGTE, presented by Witro Wealth Management.
The 419, powered by WGTE, is made possible in part by supporters like you. Thank you.